right, welcome everyone for another of our LaunchX alumni interview series. This week we have Rebecca Ma, and she is in her senior year in college, so was a launchy a number of years ago and has become a bit of a serial entrepreneur. So she's going to be telling us about her entrepreneurial journey starting back a bit ago and starting several things since then. So I guess, Rebecca, if you want to introduce yourself and tell us about the start to your entrepreneurial journey, and then we can talk about several of your startups since.
Thank you so much for the kind introduction, Lori. I really appreciate it. Well, it all started when I attended Launch in 2014, session one. Me and two other of my co-founders at the time, we started Solar Shade, which was a solar-powered umbrella that we could charge your phones in, laptops in, at the beaches and cafes as well. And from then, that really kind of sparked my passion for entrepreneurship, as well as creating something and bringing things to the market that didn't really exist before. So that led me to my junior year in high school, where I decided to start my own business, StudyPal, which was a peer-to-peer tutoring platform. After I sold StudyPal 2 years ago, I started another business, which was wireless charging, called Hearth Technologies, where we sold directly to Amazon. So those were the three projects that I was primarily working on in the past 5 years. And I truly learned so much of the foundational knowledge from Lori and just Launch. And it's definitely changed my entire life and prospects of it.
Awesome. Wow, that means a lot. Thank you. And so let's see here, where to get started with this. I guess, what initially got you interested in entrepreneurship?
Right. So both of my parents were entrepreneurs. I know it could be like the classic parents were entrepreneurs role model story, but both of them are in the tech industry. They started from nothing, and now they've built a business of 5,000 employees, and they primarily do SaaS and cloud computing in the Greater China area. So from that, it really gained, it gave me a perspective on how to start a business and the amount of work it really requires, because I see them working every day. As a kid, I attended a lot of their conferences. I went to part of their roadshow during their IPO, and I actually also rang the bell when they went public. So I kind of was exposed to that area of startup very early on in my life. And from then on, it just really inspired me to do so.
Well, and you mentioned that one of the things you mentioned is seeing the amount of work that went into it. So I guess that could have gone one of two ways, right? Like that you could have seen the amount of work that went into it.
Definitely.
But you said that was an inspiration.
Yeah.
So I guess for you as an entrepreneur, what drives you as an entrepreneur?
I guess I thought about this question a lot throughout, and I think the answer genuinely varies every single time I do a startup. I think when I first started StudyPal, my primary drive was to kind of democratize education in China, because I realized after volunteering that the students in most of the Greater China area in the villages didn't have access to standardized education, and instead all of them were being brought into vocational education, and a lot of them didn't really have a chance to go through that normal process. So that's kind of my inspiration and what drove me to really pursue StudyPal. For Hearth Chargers, what really I wanted to do was kind of stay ahead of the market and bring a product that would be cheap and also accessible to consumers. So currently what I'm focusing on is definitely helping others during this stressful time of COVID. So me and another friend of mine have been drafting ideas and potential things we could be working on and solutions. So that's what's currently driving, but it definitely varies from time to time.
Yeah. And I know at LaunchX we talk a lot about starting with a purpose. So it's good that you have that purpose behind each of them. And definitely. Also, like, congrats on having sold a company. That's huge. That's kind of a dream that a lot of people go into it with.
Thank you.
And so I guess, like, let's start with the beginning of StudyPals though. So tell us a little bit about that company, the origins of it, and then like we can work our way up to how you managed to sell it.
Great. So it was a long journey. It was my junior year of high school. I was studying for APs when I realized actually that I had a tutor, but he didn't really, I wouldn't say understand, but he wasn't super familiar with the content that we were being taught at the time, because he had graduated 10 years ago. And if you're kind of familiar with the AP system, the things really do evolve over time, and every single year it's extremely different. So it really does pay well to have a tutor that has had the experience recently. So I tried to look online at maybe tutors who were kind of my age or who had just gone through that AP program, but I couldn't find anyone. So I decided to start a peer-to-peer tutoring platform. And I did get a lot of setbacks initially, because currently in the market there's Keg, Khan Academy, who has way more resources and can do things much better. And at the time, I remember I tried to apply to 500 startups, which is like an incubator similar to like Y Combinator, basically like another launch type of thing. And we ended up getting into the final round of interviews, but a question stumped me, and that was, I guess, how do you guys differentiate yourselves? And I thought about this question a lot, but I just couldn't really answer it as much like as what the interviewer wanted at the time. And I really then had to ask myself that question. And then I realized that my target customer was completely just off. I wasn't going to target customers that were high school students living in the Bay Area, because the market's already been so saturated. And instead, I should really focus on maybe Greater China, especially because I grew up there. I know the market there pretty well, and I'm a student, so I kind of know what works. So then the next summer, I volunteer at a local orphanage and kind of just understand how the education system works outside of the big cities like Beijing and Shanghai. And I realized that there wasn't really an opportunity to have standardized education over there. So I partnered with the China Development Research Foundation, CDRF, which is founded by one of a retired government official from China who has a food program for these children all around China. And we partnered together, and he basically signed all of the students up on his program onto StudyPal. And so that basically just got dumped right onto our platform, and students were getting ready to sign up and watch videos. So we really had to, it was the chicken and egg thing. We really had to up our StudyPal game, and at the same time, be able to handle all these incoming students. So that's kind of how it started and how it gained traction. And then when
and that's a thing for a lot of platforms. There's that chicken and egg problem for basically platform.
Yeah, because we weren't ready at the time to handle so many people. I think they had 150,000 students sign up through his platform, and we weren't really ready for that. It was me, and I had hired a few contractors who had helped me with the website designs. There were a lot of bugs at the time, but that was a major issue that we faced in the initial.
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of platforms, when they first launch and first get traction, do have a lot of bugs in them, right? And I think a lot of startups make the mistake of trying to make everything perfect from the beginning, and don't realize that a lot of successful companies or startups like yours do have bugs when they start out, right? And that's just part of the growth.
Definitely. I totally agree with that. I was trying to make the whole platform perfect when I started it out, and I realized it just wasn't going to get finished. It was never going to be perfect. I even I spent 2 days designing the logo, which was just ended up being something really simple, but realized none of that really mattered at the end of the day. I just needed to get the main thing done.
Yeah, I think you probably remember at LaunchX, sometimes we say perfect is the enemy of done.
Yes, I remember that. Totally.
Yeah, so then walk us through then how that ended up going from that initial growth, getting a huge number of people on, towards then ultimately selling it.
Okay, so we, and after gaining all these students, I remember this was around 2016 to 2017, and StudyPal had been around for a year already. We were operating, and we were mostly posting videos of Chinese teachers uploading their lectures onto our platform, and then students from around China could listen in on certain topics that they weren't taught locally. And this was all part of a program that CDRF created. So we we then got a couple of newspapers, I think Global Times as well as People's Daily, which are two prominent newspapers in China, who talked about, I guess, I was interviewed then, and I guess StudyPal was featured as well as CDRF. And that's kind of what that's when I started getting like calls from people in China, like, oh, I saw you on the newspaper, like a little area. Is this you, Rebecca? And I was like, yeah, it is. So that's when like I started realizing, oh, this could like, work. So continued working every single day. I was like trying to fix the bugs and working with a team of designers and engineers to try to better the platform with all these people. And at the same time, I was trying to look for more partners and thinking about expanding maybe overseas. So it was kind of just messy every single day, but I really needed to focus on the customer base I already had. So I remember I was reached out to by a Taiwanese tutoring company, like K Tutors, or honestly, I'm blanking out on the name right now, but I think it was something like K Tutors. And they had offered initially, I think 150K at the time to buy our platform, and instead, and CDRF with CDRF's agreement, and CDRF approved, obviously. And I was getting into college at this point. It was like 2 years in. And I realized I couldn't really full-time run this business as well as, go to college and start everything at USC. So I decided to sell it. I ended up negotiating a little bit, and then so we ended up selling for around 190K, so rounded up to 200K. But it was definitely an experience, and I had to sign a lot of forms I didn't really understand. And there were a lot of agreements over there, but that's how basically it all ended as well.
Oh, wow. Congrats. And I mean, it sounds like really, really good timing as well to be right before college, to be able to then focus on school, but then also set yourself up for additional ventures as well.
Yeah, I ended up having to take the first semester of college off because I was so busy with StudyPal and everything going on. I just spent it in Beijing trying to work on this.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so you took the first semester off, but then got to school and then managed to find your way into other startups as well.
Yeah, so I wanted to join a lot of clubs and, just kind of take a break. But then I met this guy named Neil from down the hall in my dorm room, and we were like, oh, we should do a startup together. And it was kind of like a joke at first, but we started having meetings every single like Wednesday, and then that became every single day. And we wanted to we were like brainstorming ideas, and we kind of just ended up coming with a wireless charger idea called Hearth Technologies. And he had a lot of relations with Chinese manufacturers from previous startups he had done in high school, because I think that's also kind of his niche as well. So he had those connections with manufacturers in China, and together we worked to produce Hearth wireless chargers, which was my third startup at the time. And we ended up selling a single unit for around like $8. And at the time, a wireless charger in 2018 was like $40. That was like the new kind of little gadget that everyone had. So we tried to more or less democratize the price of things. And we sold around 500 units to start out with to Amazon. So Amazon directly was our customer. We also cold called a lot of other people, like Target, Best Buy, tons of companies. And we got a lot of no's mostly, but Amazon ended up buying 500 units, and then we continuously sold to them. So that was kind of a source of passive income for us. I don't really work on that anymore, but still get a little bit of money from that every month. So that's good.
So y'all were kind of like a wholesaler in a way for them?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Nice. Awesome. And I mean, I imagine some people that are starting out into entrepreneurship might have the question of how you might go about finding that person that would be a like co-founder like Neil was, and how you would know that person might be a good match, like in terms of, personality and skills and everything. It sounds like from when you met him and talked to him about startups that you kind of knew that he was the type of person that would be a good co-founder. How did that come about?
Definitely I was pretty lucky, to be honest. I found Neil, but definitely the passion has to be there, because in order to like, you definitely know this, Lori, but in order to, I guess, have a product sell and succeed, you really need to constantly be working on it, and constantly be thinking of new ideas and just innovating here and there, because and also be willing to work as hard as possible. So we were both pretty good students at school, so that wasn't an issue, but we basically spent all of our free time the first like 6 months just working on this startup, and kept on brainstorming ideas, like marketing ideas, etc. And what I saw in him was mostly just passion and the tech savvy skills that I didn't have. I'm more of like a hustler, and he's like more of the engineer. And so he definitely helped with the app as well as our website. And I think just mostly passion and technical skill, like I'd say that's like come secondary to I guess compatibility and passion for to succeed.
Yeah, it sounds like y'all had a lot of complementary aspects, but then also, I mean, just seeing that y'all were meeting every week and then every day, just having that same level of commitment is really important, right?
Exactly. And like making timelines and sticking to schedules, and then also just like not being afraid to cold call, because I know I used to be before launch. So
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. And then let's see here. So, and I know this is your senior year, your last year of school. And so what might the future hold for your entrepreneurial endeavors?
right, for sure. I definitely do want to be an entrepreneur at the end of the day. But currently I'm looking to go a little bit more into consulting. Again, following your footsteps, basically, Lori. And understand businesses, how big businesses work, and maybe work in a corporate environment before I kind of go back into the startup realm. I definitely am thinking of maybe going into grad school and perhaps start like looking for a co-founder there, or someone I already know to start another business, potentially. And maybe going into incubators, because I'm in the Bay Area right now, and there's Y Combinator, 500 startups, Techstars, like basically so many other incubators. And I think that really helps, because I work really well under that sort of mentorship environment like I had at launch.
Yeah, and I know it's something that, and I know I've mentioned this to you, because I mean, we corresponded a little bit about the consulting world. But I know I found consulting to be a really great place to understand some of the different ways to think about the business world, and to build that good foundation of problem solving. So, I mean, it is really fantastic to just think about strategy. So can be a really good way to get the next foundation before jumping back into entrepreneurship.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah. So let's see here. I guess as we wrap things up here, what advice might you have for any folks out there that might be interested in becoming high school entrepreneurs?
Okay, great. Well, first, 10 launch, and that definitely was the main jump starting to my entire career. It changed my whole prospects in life. It definitely made me know I wanted to become an entrepreneur. Taught me so much, like Lori, Bill Aulette, and all the connections that you gain like throughout the program are just like honestly priceless experience. But besides that, I guess not be afraid to reach out to people, whether they're mentors, and then cold calling companies as well. Because I know a lot of the times they don't take high school very seriously, but if you really just kind of power through and treat yourself, I guess take yourself seriously, other people will as well at the end of the day. So just not be afraid to reach out to people, whether they're mentors or people you want connections with, at any stage in life.
Yeah, absolutely great advice. Yeah, worst thing they can say is no. So
Exactly.
I mean, there's a lot of potential upside, minimal downside, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining. It is awesome to see the progress that you've made selling a company and working on another. And I'm really excited to see the potential that the future holds for you.
Yeah.
And thank you all, everyone else, for joining. And we'll also
you.
post this to YouTube soon. So thank you again, Rebecca. And thanks everyone
Thank you
for joining.
having me. Yeah.